And we are live on a Sunday, episode 20 of the DJ and Heel Show. What's up, DJ?
What's up, mother? Coming down and no one's sticking the landing. It's just been a cluster between the releases and the fucking three shitty follow-up shows we've done this week. Wrestling wasn't dying before, it's definitely getting shot in the head now.
I wouldn't go that far, but let's there's a big story, obviously, that came out on Friday that we've kind of been, keeping low key on, that I've been wanting to get to. I don't know, you want to wait a couple minutes, see who else shows up?
What are we talking about, the releases?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll wait for a few minutes to see if we can get a couple people who want to speak on that in a sec. Let's Conrad, Dave, Joey Janela, Brodie Lee Jr. drama.
Oh, yeah.
It's two separate topics molded into one.
I'm actually surprised, and at the same time not surprised, by how many people actually are okay with a 14-year-old having a 30-minute match with an adult.
Not only that, I'm shocked there's a lot of people in the wrestling business, the people who should have respect for wrestling, the people who shouldn't say be offended, but should be kind of mad that this went on. You know what I mean? It wasn't even like that this was the 14-year-old's first match, blah, blah, blah. He was pretty much the fucking main event. He was what drew. He was one of the draws of the match. And I'll give the quick recap for anyone who's re-listening and living under a fucking rock. It started off over WrestleMania weekend. Joey Janela, the bottom dweller that he is, had a match with a 14-year-old Brodie Lee Jr. This is the same Joey Janela who got Sabu high as shit on Kratom and other shit. I can't remember what it was. I think it was Kratom and something else. And got him out there for his last match a week before he fucking died, which had probably contributed to his death, let's be honest. The same Joey Janela who thought lighting himself on fucking fire for a super kick and having no plan after he did said super kick and almost burned his fucking foot off. This same attention whore. I don't give a shit about how Sean Ross Sapp or anyone else try to sit here and say, oh, Joey Janela's a good dude. He's one of the best people in the indies. First of all, this motherfucker got an opportunity to be on primetime television and was the first person Tony Khan said, fuck this, I ain't putting him back on TV ever again. Joey Janela is a joke to the wrestling business. He's a joke of a wrestler. There's a reason why he's relegated to the fucking indies. And we're sitting here glorifying him for putting over a 14-year-old child on the indies, on a pay-per-view, no less, on WrestleMania weekend. Now, that's just the beginning of my issues. Let's forget about the fact that wrestlers are getting injured at a rate higher now than ever before, especially on the indie scene. And wrestling is such, you got to be perfect. You can't fuck up, because your fuck up can not only harm yourself, it could harm other people. And now we're putting a 14-year-old child in that situation to where if Joey Janela is having any form of an off night, if he's taken any form of substances, I'm not saying he's a drug addict. He just looks the fucking part. But he has one off night, or he slips on a suplex, or he slips on giving him any type of bump. And that kid could get fucked up for the rest of his life. We're putting this kid, a 14-year-old child, no matter who's his fucking father at the end of the day, we're putting him as a main event draw on a pay-per-view, when the first thing he should be focusing on is fucking school.
I wanted to say one thing, interrupt you real quick. It's not even Joey Janela. If this kid has a match with anyone, we've seen moves get messed up. We've seen botches. It's just part of the game. You know,
I'm just saying, it's like motherfuckers did not learn from mass transit. You know what I mean? The last time we let an underage mark into the business. Again, it's a different substance because, or not substance, context, because mass transit didn't have a daddy in the business, and his dad didn't die while he was in the business. So that's where I feel like people feel like they have to give Brodie Lee Jr. some type of credence. Oh, we feel bad for you because your dad died. I feel like we're a little bit past that train. I'd say this for anybody, for any person who is underage, no matter if motherfuckers back in the 80s got their start when they were 15 underage illegally. They shouldn't have done it.
And that's
with their parent, I'd say the exact same thing.
Right.
If this was my child, hindsight, because I'm a dad and I have a 3-year-old, and the parent ever came to me at 14 years old and say, I want to wrestle for XX outlaw promotion. Fuck you. You gotta wait till you're 16. When you're old enough to drive your ass there into the fucking hospital, then you can go do whatever the fuck you want. Until then, you're a child. Go play some video games. If you want to do some moves and work a match, working on the trampoline in the backyard.
And that's what a lot of people were using as like defense. They were talking about William Regal and Rey Mysterio, and like saying that it's contradictory by saying something about.
Also, in those contexts, they were undercard matches. They weren't the fucking draws of the paper.
Right, but for someone to say that it's being contradictory, for us to say that we have a problem with a 14-year-old, and it's like, well, you're a fan of these guys, and they started young. And if I knew them at 15, I would have said the same thing. Just because I'm a fan of a guy who's now 60 and William Regal doesn't mean I would be okay that he started at 15 years old. It's still not right. I don't understand.
Also, Joshi started out young wrestling at 13 and 14.
Again, that's a whole different culture to where you could also, in the Japanese culture, you can buy fucking used women's underwear from vending machines. So I'm not going to use the fucking Japanese as the compass of my morality.
Whoa. Japan ain't that way.
Yes, they are.
I mean, comparing to the U.S., people in the U.S., I'm like, it's kind of.
I'm saying in terms of the morality and how they treat women, and especially young women in Japan, I'm not using my morality there to fucking justify what's going on over here. And in terms of how Americans should raise their children. And again, I understand people giving Brodie Lee the pass because we feel bad for what happened to his dad. Okay, cool. Maybe keep him. I have no problem people bringing him around backstage in these events, or people training him behind the scenes. Like, that shit is okay. For him to be main eventing pay-per-views with grown-ass wrestlers, like, come on now. Again, Brodie Lee Jr. works if you have him fighting a manager or even a girl. Have him, because I say the same thing when fucking Big Boom AJ lets his fucking kids in the ring. I think it's stupid, especially when the kids are fucking looking strong over the wrestlers. Big Justice only took one bump. Most of the time, he's fucking giving bump. So, you know what I mean? We're giving the impression to these kids that anyone can do it. Anyone can join in the show. That they can do this in their backyards when this should be done by trained fucking professionals.
It's not only that, but it's that whole don't try this at home. And if they see a 14-year-old doing it, they're going to be like, oh, he's my age. So I can do that too. And it's a.
I just want to finish this point real quick, Brandon, then I'll give it back to you.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, as a wrestling fan, the idea that I have to accept Brodie Lee versus Joey Janela as a wrestling fan and give it credence as a wrestling fan and treat it as wrestling, I'm calling bullshit. And I'm telling every person who sits here and try to make the argument to me, fucking bullshit. Because if we're not going to allow it in any other fucking sport, even though wrestling's fake and it'll work, they're taking real bumps out there. We shouldn't be allowing children doing that shit. It's just plain and simple. But go ahead, Brendan. Go to hands or do whatever.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that it just sets a bad example because kids will see this, they'll see clips of it on TikTok or whatever, and they'll see a kid who's their age, 13, 14 years old, doing these spots, doing all this, and they're going to be like, you know what? I can do that. And they're going to take their 6-year-old brother or sister, and they're going to try to do a freaking Canadian destroyer. And
dude, I just shared a clip like a week ago of a fucking like 7-year-old girl claymoring her little brother.
And that wasn't even a wrestling move. It was just turned into a wrestling meme. So,
and last point, real quick, I lied. I have one more thing in terms of Uncle Dave and his idiotic bullshit, because I didn't even pay attention to the him and Conrad thing until you brought it up. But like Dave going out there and trying to say, oh, well, Brodie Lee is working better than 80% of the roster on NXT. Shove that opinion up your fucking big apple nose and then take it out and put it in your ass. Are you fucking dumb? You know how disrespectful that is to every motherfucker who's put in time for wrestling? Again, if we feel bad because his dad died, that's one fucking thing. But to sit here and shit on other people to try to justify your bullshit narrative and your bullshit opinion and your bullshit style of wrestling is fucking dumb. And it kills any credibility that you spent fucking 40 years trying to build up, you big-nosed, big-headed fucking moron. Go take some more human growth hormone and fucking figure out how you're going to write and lie on your next article.
Not only that, but you're putting this 14-year-old kid in the line of fire in one of the most toxic environments known as the internet wrestling community. So you're going to have half a fan base going after this kid alone because of your opinions. A place that this kid shouldn't have any business in. And while he may not have an actual Twitter account, if people are talking about him, he's going to find out. So just using that comparison and to feed into tribalism, to fit the narrative that Dave wants to give, is just irresponsible in that part by itself. I'm going to get some hands. Let's go, Brandon Ace. And go ahead.
Oh, no, Brandon dropped down to a listener. I was going to go to Herm.
Oh, let's go to Herm. I saw him as speaker, but okay, Herm.
Yeah, this shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone because it's just that's indie wrestling for you. It's all these people out here. They're like, oh well, there's other promotions to go to support indie wrestling, but then you hear about trash. You hear about people fight, teenagers, and like you said, Brandon, there's people out there that are the same age as this kid, and they're thinking, oh, hey, I should try that stuff, and then they're going to go out there and break their have to get a surgical halo and shit put on because somebody decided, oh, I'm going to do a Stone Cold Stunner. It's just, I don't know what it is anymore, people. I think as technology gets smarter, people have just gotten dumber. And as the wrestling fan doesn't need to get any dumber than they already are, but unfortunately, it happens.
I just point out the fact that Joey Janela is a moron, a bottom dweller, and we shouldn't celebrate him or any of his quote-unquote accomplishments in the fucking wrestling business. But I think the bigger issue of this is, why are we glorifying letting a child, someone who's barely a fucking teenager, main eventing an indie pay-per-view? Again, it's on Triller, so people can buy this shit. It is accessible to the regular public. Why are we putting this on and trying to glorify it? Because it's quote unquote wrestling. It demeans what wrestling is. It diminishes the impact of what wrestling should be, and it treats it like a fucking joke. And this is why fans are bleeding away instead of joining up, because we're going further and further and further away from what wrestling was into the fucking grunge subsection indie lover bullshit, and it's stupid.
And let's call it what it is. Joey Janela saw this as an opportunity to get eyes on.
To get attention because he's an attention whore.
Yeah, like that's what this was about.
Yeah, and the other thing I wanted to say too, it's like he made I can't believe that comment that the fucking Brodie Lee is fucking more, what do I want to say, better than the majority of the NXT roster. Did Meltzer actually say something like that?
Yeah, that was the argument that he was starting.
He said that verbatim.
What kind of a dumb son of a bitch is Meltzer? Has he fucking sat through NXT, or does he let Alvarez do it and then they both bitch like a bunch of crotchety old fuckers? I don't think I've ever fucking sat through NXT. I've sat through NXT, and I can tell you something right now. most of those guys in about 5 years, 7 years from now are going to be main roster champions.
And the funniest part is 2 weeks ago, he was begging Tony Khan to like steal away Lola Vice and Kendall Gray and like a bunch of people. And then he's saying that, you know, the 14-year-old is better than a majority. And it's just like,
I'm sorry to get off there, Brandon, but I just want to get this one out while I remember it. This is the same fan base of people that every time a WWE person becomes available, they're like, oh, bring him into AEW. Like, these are the people, like the Wyatt Six, for example. The whole time the Wyatt Six were around, they would shit all over him. Oh, you know, these guys do this fucking cosplay like they're Bray Wyatt characters, da-da-da-da-da-da. They got fucking released on Friday. You see motherfuckers posting shit saying Uncle Howdy is all elite. It's like, Uncle Howdy said, fuck you. He's just going to go back to Brookside, Florida and fucking go back to selling real estate.
but we're going to get into the releases shortly. Let me get over to Dylan real quick. What's up, Dylan?
Yeah, so I want to hop on this Brodie Lee thing. So this has got to be some of the dumbest conversation that I've ever seen in my timeline, and coming from Meltzer, okay? Because, like, this is ridiculous, okay? This guy, I do not understand why people would buy his spot listed in this garbage that Meltzer and Brian will spew on their show regularly. Why do people think that Brodie Lee Jr. at 14 years old thinks that he is better than most of the male guys on the indies or in NXT? And I don't get this narrative that people like Meltzer think that way, or people in general think, because it's bad enough that, listen, like, the dude, like, have I seen the dude train? Is he good? Yeah, I've seen him train here and there. But I think that a 14-year-old kid is better than that's been training at Natalia's dungeon, and people like this think that Brodie Lee Jr. at 14 years old is better than the male guys on the indies or male talent NXT. I just don't get the logic behind it. I really don't. You know what I mean? I don't know why people think that way.
That's why I'm sitting here having an issue with him even having a match like that in the first place, especially it being billed as one of the featured matches. He was pretty much the main event. Like, he was one of the draws of him and Joey versus Joey Janela was one of the draws of the show. And if you're gonna have him wrestle publicly on the indies, quote unquote, have him do it under a mask. Have it where he's barely recognizable. So because having this young kid in the spotlight the way he is, and for people to be able, for him to be in the position to where we have to either A, critique it, or B, have an opinion on what we see in front of us. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of a catch-21. It's damned if we say anything, damned if we don't. If we say anything, we come off as assholes and we come off as pricks. But if we don't say something, we're just feeding into the problem and feeding into the narrative, and then they'll start allowing more kids and younger kids to this shit.
My other problem is the kid is 14 years old. Why not let him wrestle when he's 18 or like close to 20? Like, you know what I mean? What if he got hurt in that? You know,
that's one of the first things I brought up. That it takes one accident, one person having an off day, or someone's time being off by half a second, and that kid's paralyzed, or that kid breaks an arm, or that kid breaks a leg, and then what then? Are we going to let Amanda Huber own the promotion because we're that scared to be sued? Are we just going to close down? And you know what I mean? So it's like,
like, that's another point I want to bring up too. It's like, people at times need to think about what they're doing. You know what I mean? Like, people need to think, this kid is not better than half the indie guys on the circuit. Like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, there's so many indie guys that I look at, Deejay, that should be signed. And people like Meltzer think that this guy, Brodie Lee Jr. at 14 is better than most of the guys on the indies. Like, it's just not right. It's not fair to those guys.
And the thing with Dave is he's such a historian. You know what I mean? He could have made other applicable comparisons in terms of young guys in the business and potential when they were young, like Tommy Rich, Chris Candido. I'm trying to think, Rene Dupree. You know what I mean? Guys who did break in at a younger point of the business, a 16, 17.
Yeah.
But these guys were prodigies when they came in. Rene Dupree was a fucking in-ring general by the time he got to the WWE, to where they pretty much
100%.
put a rocket to him. Candido, same thing in Smoky Mountain. When he was 18, he was pretty much a prodigy, and Cornette pushed him to the fucking moon. So, like,
Jeff Hardy was on Raw at 16.
Yeah, but Jeff also lied.
I'm just saying in terms of.
I mean, yes, he lied, but he was still 16. That's who you compare it to, not, people that are being paid as their job, as their profession.
It's not only him, but there's people on the internet that are generally thinking, I've heard this too. Oh, Brodie Lee Jr. is better than he's better than this guy, that guy. I'm like, what? I don't get it.
And honestly, it just feeds more into this some of the unneeded tribalism we have in the IWC. And I think,
100%.
there's no, and I think I'm at the, like, when I first broke into the IWC, I was a part of the whole mission of, I'm going to try to at least do my part to end tribalism, or, try to put the kibosh on this shit. But there's no really ending this shit. All you can really do is mitigate the bad parts of tribalism. Because don't get me wrong, there is some positives about tribalism, what some people don't like to believe. You know what I mean? Without competition, nothing can thrive. You know what I mean? The NFL wouldn't be the biggest sports league in the entire world if they didn't have the most competitive athletes on the planet. Same thing with the NBA. Same thing with FIBA. It's like, you got to be able to, how can I word this?
You gotta do it one conversation at a time.
Yes, you know what I mean? You got to be able to just, you only can control what you can in your circle. And like, when it comes to like, I try to at least combat tribalism is I try to look at everything objective and see both points of views and not just be on strictly one side. Because I feel like that will feed into tribalism more than not being consistent. If I'm consistent on one thing in terms of my stance on something, and Nick knows this because he knows I'm one of the most consistent people in terms of how I feel on stuff in wrestling.
No, you're not, you damn shill.
I'm just saying, like, if they do a garbage match in WWE, I'm gonna shit on it as much as I shit on it in AEW, or girls matches, or bad matches, or just in general. You know what I mean? If I don't like a certain gimmick in AEW, I'm not gonna like the WWE version of it. So, like, I at least try to maintain consistency in terms of if I do, quote unquote, feed into the tribalism. Because everyone does. Even if they don't try to, you're going to feed into tribalism by just having an opinion, either for or against. But real quick, I'm sorry to take over. It's kind of my show, so it's not that big of a deal. But Brandon Ace, you're back. You were waiting. What you have to add to this?
Yeah. Like, can anyone hear me correctly? Can anyone hear me?
Yeah,
You're
you could.
good now.
Okay. Now, when it comes to what Dave said, I'm like, buddy, what are you doing? Why are you saying this type of shit? Because when you say something like that, you are putting massive expectations on the kid, especially at 14. We already know, like, the expectations from any second generation or third generation superstar is very high. What Melton said, you just put even more expectations on this kid that pretty much he has to be like that quote unquote generational talent. It's like, bruh, there's no need to say that, because a kid that's like at 14, and when you say that, that's going to put immense pressure on him that he has to be perfect. And at some point, he's probably going to end up messing up one spot, and he can probably get critiqued by it.
But Brandon, I just want to add though, real quick, and because I think Dave does get some blame for what he said, but I think if they never had the match in the first place, or he wrestled under a mask, and Dave found out eventually it was Brodie Lee Jr., and then he made a side critique.
I mean,
you know what I mean? I feel like it'd be, if Dave just said this out of nowhere, I think no one would take it as seriously. But the fact that they, again, GCW built this as pretty much the draw of that show, and it was the biggest, you know what I mean? It had all the eyeballs it was going to get on it, more than it should have. And I think putting Brodie Lee in that position in the first place to be critiqued and for Dave to have an opinion on it is the bigger issue than Dave putting his shitty opinion out there. You get what I'm saying? Sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead. If you're there.
Yes, I get it, but look, do I have a problem with the match to a certain degree? But I feel like the match is going to be safe because I think Joey Janela is stupid. He ain't an idiot. He ain't that dumb. I understand that you're not.
He gave Sabu freedom and got him high before his last match. A smart person would do that, Brandon.
No, but I doubt he will mess up this type of
Or
match
would a smart person admit to doing it?
for a kid.
I was going to say, would a smart person admit to doing it?
Probably not.
Okay, those are my, based on the statement that Joey Janela isn't a moron, those are my evidence to state the otherwise.
I understand, and I'm pretty sure when this match was happening, they probably were in the back telling what they're going to do and what spots they're going to do, safe spots and whatnot. Because I'm pretty sure they wasn't going to have a match and not go ballistic. I'm pretty sure there were some things they discussed backstage, like in any promotion that you do.
No, but in terms of quote unquote safe bumps, even the safest bump, you can get hurt on again if he makes his timing's a half a second off, or he slips on someone else's blood from the previous match. There are things outside their control that can happen that can fuck this kid up, and nobody's thinking of that because we don't have people of responsibility in these indie promoter wrestling roles, and it's stupid. But I think Dave's a moron for stating his opinion. I think Dave's a moron consistently for having these opinions. But I think the bigger issue is we shouldn't be glorifying or sitting here being okay sitting here saying, I wouldn't say anything good about Brodie Lee, but sitting here glorifying that he just pretty much main evented a pay-per-view show for an indie promotion at 14 and that he had a good match. We shouldn't even be talking about this shit in the first place. But let me go to Jet because I do want to get to the release conversation in a second. So go ahead, Jet.
Mike, check 1, 2. Can you hear me? Am I robotic? Can you hear me?
You're good.
First of all, I want to say I'm glad to be here today on the DJ and the Hill show. I'm so glad to be here on the best podcast on Twitter and anywhere else because I love to be here with the man that beat me and the man that hosts the person that beat me.
Hey, let's get to the topic on hand.
Okay, the topic on hand is that I made my return because the jet has landed after a week in prison. But the next thing I want to talk about is Brodie Lee Jr. again. So this is the other day. At 14 years old, you shouldn't be wrestling. Okay, I think there should be limits and practices to you train to be a wrestler. At 14, you should be focusing on being at school, doing your studies. Again, where I grew up and how I grew up is when you're 18, you can do whatever you want. You can live however you want. You can do whatever. I feel like at 14, that's too young to be wrestling somebody like a Joey Janela or somebody like that. And I get, oh, well, Rey Mysterio did it. Fucking Billy Starks did it. Nick Wayne. That doesn't make it right either because they did it. I feel there should be some standards to this shit. There should be some limits to this shit. That's it. I'm not going to be long-winded. That's 1,000 questions. I love to be here. And I thank God for being here. That's my last statement.
Okay, Medea, hallelujah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Jesus.
Why is a 110-pound 14-year-old getting any offense in at all?
Is he even 110 pounds? He's like 80 or 70. He even 100. I'm pretty sure it's not even the fucking triple digits.
Right, but Craig's bringing up a good point. There's one thing to have, suspension of disbelief when it comes to pro wrestling, but there's other things that just, physics you can't lie about,
Again, it's because a majority of the wrestling fans, especially the ones who know who the fuck this kid is, feel extremely bad about the situation that he's in, that his dad died while being pretty much in the prime of his career, and he, lost a major figure in his life, and they want to do as much as they can to fill that hole. Okay, cool. I think Tony Khan's done a lot to help fill that fucking hole. Do we have to allow it on the indies too? Can we just not let it happen on Tony Khan's dime? Again, Tony's done Brodie Lee Jr. the right way. Used him as a manager. Used him in manager spots. He's not letting him have fucking prolonged matches on Dynamite.
Would you have
Also,
less of a problem with it if it was a situation on a pre-show where they built it up to be like Big Justice versus Brodie Lee Jr.?
No, because I think the Big Justice, well, if it's kid versus kid, maybe. But I think the Big Justice shit has been stupid too. That's been him and the wrestler shit's been unneeded and unnecessary.
You think
is a detriment to wrestling.
Okay, if you think Joey Janela versus Brodie Lee Jr. is gonna piss you off, get ready, because don't be surprised if they do Marco Stunt versus BrodieLee Jr.
No, but that's believable because Marco Stunt's a midget.
Yeah, at least they're the same size.
He's a fucking midget. Like, he's a dwarf. He weighs
I'm
less.
actually
He
surprised.
weighs less than Brodie Lee Jr.
I'm actually surprised that match hasn't happened
The
yet.
child versus the oddity. The child versus the woman ballet. The child versus the fucking bitchy, chicken shit heel manager. That's the context you use it in. You don't use it in what as your fucking draw with one of your quote unquote top talents, whatever. If people can call Joey Janela that, the only reason he's a quote unquote top talent is because that motherfucker will do anything to get attention. You can add the stipulation, if Joey Janela loses, he will get into the middle of the ring, strap a dildo down, and suck it to the best of his fucking degree. He will do it if it thinks it will get him attention.
I mean, he's winning in life. I mean, he got Megan Bailey.
You always bring that up.
I mean, if
Why
you catch,
you sound so?
I mean, when you catch someone like Megan Bailey, I'm like, hey,
DJ.
that's the guy.
Yeah. DJ, but back to my point from just now. See, if it was Brodie Lee against Big Justice, I would be more okay with that, because we have, martial arts competitions and tournaments where kids are, doing these things against kids. You could have a jiu-jitsu tournament, you could have a wrestling tournament, and there's kids the same ages doing that. So to me, if it was something like that, I think I would have less of a problem with than if it was, what we got with Brodie Lee against like a grown man.
DJ, you're a goat. Brandon, you're a goat too. I love this shit. I love being here, and I love that this podcast is here on this Sunday evening. On
This
the
afternoon, let me stop.
Okay, let's
afternoon, evening, whatever.
we're gonna move on.
Let's get to the big topic. I'm just gonna move on. I got you, Brandon.
Wait, I'm returning. Yes, let's talk about the Jet return after being a weekend jail.
Shut up. I'm gonna mute you. Stop.
You fucking up the segue, damn it. I got this. All right. So the big topic of the week so far.
Black Friday. Black Friday.
WWE release day, spring cleaning, as I've come to call it, because it happens the same time every year. We got some releases.
Some releases?
We got some big releases.
2 dozen names all together. 2 dozen.
But I think out of all the releases they've had over the past few years, I think everyone on this list you could pretty much justify not, getting off your roster and not using them because what, you know what I mean? So I'm gonna go down the list real quick, and then me and Brandon are gonna break down and start conversations on who do we think is possibly going where.
And guys, just while we're having this conversation, we are doing hands, so please do not interrupt. We're gonna take hands.
just because we got a lot of speakers.
Yeah.
We want to make sure the playback it comes out a lot better. We've gotten complaints from fans. We have enough fans that we get complaints now, so we gotta oblige to these motherfuckers, okay?
Yeah,
because we were trying to get y'all fans too. Let me go down this list. I got it right here. Shout out to my best friend in the world, Sean Ross Sapp. He put it. I'm copying it from him. The full list right now of WWE releases were Kairi Sane, Alistair and Zelina, Bo Dallas, Nikki Cross, Santos Escobar, the Machine Guns, Dexter Lumis, Apollo Crews, Rowan, Joe Gacy, Andre Chase, Zoe Stark, Alba Fire, Tyra May Steele, Serena Linton, Tyson, Tyreek, Chris Island, Malik Blade, Trill London, and Luca from Tony D's old group.
Did you get Andre Chase and Dante Chen?
Yep, I didn't get Dante Chen. That's the last one.
Okay.
But I got Andre Chase.
One thing I want to say out of the gate, the people who are losing their minds about the Wyatt Six and saying that it's shitting on Bray's legacy and, and that TKO should burn in hell for this. Get over yourselves.
Hold on. You're going to hate me because I'm on the counterpoint side, and I'm not as bad as the initial point you made, but this is a definite L and on the TKO end of things. You bring Bo Dallas and pretty much Bray's old group back to try to capitalize off the death of Bray Wyatt and fucking use it to your most benefactor, the benefactor you financially as possible. You barely use them though, or at least you use them terribly on TV. And then you release them once all the Bray Wyatt buzz is gone. They pretty much did everything they could do with Bray Wyatt. They gave him a legacy edition. They gave him, I think, a whole DLC thing on 2K. They did a fucking documentary on him. They brought Bo back purely to capitalize off the name of Bray Wyatt and be allowed to do it. And I think it's a terrible end to the Wyatt Six and pretty much the last remnants of Bray Wyatt.
I don't feel that because of what happened to Bray that they need to have jobs for life.
No, but I'm saying they brought them back in a way to how do I say this? Not tarnish Bray's legacy, but they wanted to honor. At first, they wanted to honor it in some way, but then again, the follow up was terrible. Then they didn't really care about him, kept him in the middle of nowhere. Then they were gone forever. Then they brought him back just to pretty much do the last job to the MFTs to make the MFTs not look like a joke. In terms of the Wyatt Six, they were definitely done wrong and a bit dirty from the creative standpoint. And this is definitely a WWE L in terms of them just bringing them back to capitalize off the death of Bray. And then once pretty much all the Bray buzz died down, they didn't use them at all. They kept them at home and then discarded them when they didn't need them no more, because obviously the Bray legacy ain't keeping them over no more.
On top, but on the counterpoint is, it was also a limited time tribute. It wasn't something that was going to last a decade. It had a short shelf life. So to me,
no, but they definitely. Can you at least agree they didn't capitalize on it the best way that they could?
Oh no, yeah, no, they definitely dropped the ball from a creative standpoint.
Okay. But that's just my whole point of where they got done filming.
I just don't think that people should be upset because they don't have jobs for life. I mean, just
no, they definitely deserve. No, they deserve the releases. Don't get me wrong; they weren't doing anything, and they were using them sporadically at best. But I am on the side of it's more of WWE's fault that they didn't work out, not the talent themselves.
Yeah, but again, there's only so much that the Wyatts were going to do.
What's that?
Aleister Black.
I disagree. I think, again, the ceiling was unlimited if they did everything right and, used the right people in the right places to get them over. They just didn't. They tried it. They just used them the best way to get the best pop as possible and to cash out. That's it. Let's go to Lombardi. I see his hands up, and I want to hear what the fuck he has to say on this.
Hello, gentlemen. Hope everything is well. I don't want to skip the line at all because I saw some other people's hands raised first. But
I didn't see any. I only saw your hand. So
I saw Michael had his hand up. That was the first one I saw. But if you guys want me to go, I'll go.
No, go ahead, Nick. I'll go to Matt after.
Sure. I mean, I have a lot of thoughts on a lot of these releases, but we'll just to keep in the prism of the Wyatt Six. I think there's a bit of both things here. One, I really do agree with Brandon that no one is entitled to a job for life. And while the premise of the Wyatt Six was, of course, a beautiful tribute to the life and the career of Bray Wyatt, if it wasn't working, it wasn't working. I do think that yes, they suffered from some real big lapses in creative. They had some turbulence with injuries that I think really stunted a lot of growth they could have had. And it was never really made clear who exactly was the ones. Maybe I just didn't see it.
It was
but,
Bo. Bo Dallas was out for like 4 months.
Yeah, Bo was really hurt. He's a quintessential piece of that. They spent a lot of time investing in the lore building behind Bo and his ambitions and what was driving him. So I just don't think they just kind of like gave up on them. I think they got hurt, and then they unfortunately, time moves on. They just didn't have anything for them, which makes no sense to me because SmackDown's a complete shithole. Where how do you not have anything to do when you have a faction that has tag teams, a woman wrestler when you need some dichotomy in that women's division, and a main event star, quote unquote, their main leader in Uncle Howdy? How do you not be able to figure out ways that you can factor him into something interesting? So I think it is a mixture of bad luck, bad timing, but also, yes, WWE fumbling the bag on being able to do more with them creatively rather than just having them do spooky stuff, and just feud with the MFTs into the end of fucking time. And it is a shitty end. It's a sucky way that this has to be the ending of not just the Wyatt Six, but to your point, DJ, the ending of really Bray Wyatt. I mean, it was a weird moment for me.
Legacy, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it was a weird moment for me because I had the exact same reaction as you, where I'm like, man, like that's the end of. But besides Alexa Bliss, who will always, do her part to kind of, shine light on Bray. Bray, the touches that the marks that Bray Wyatt left behind are just no longer WWE, and that's really sad.
Well, real quick, before I go to Matt, I want to just go down these releases real quick. And also, last thing on the Wyatt Six, I think what WWE could have did was get rid of everyone else but keep Dexter Lumis. Because I think Lumis has a look. I think he's an underrated worker for his size. You can find something for him to do if you just focused on him. That's the issue with Lumis's WWE push, is that every time he had any type of focus, he was in a group. And I don't think he ever had that chance to get a solid push. Hopefully somebody on the indies can snatch him up. I think he would do great in a TNA, maybe an MLW. If he's a solo guy, if he goes solo, AEW would be perfect for him. But if he's going with the Wyatts, which I highly doubt, don't say no. I think a guy like Lumis would stand out as a solo.
I think TNA is the play. He's got a history there. But let's get to Max. I want to. There's so many releases. I think we should got to kind of keep them a little bunched together, so we can keep the conversation, pretty flowing. So let's get to Matt if he's got something to say about the Wyatts.
I do. They were the ones I wanted to talk about since yesterday, since we had to stay on topic. See, with the releases, I fucking expected the LWO, the Creeds, or the Vikings to get released, but Bo Dallas, really? Because I thought his family connection with, Mike Rotunda, Barry Windham, Bray Wyatt, and also the fact that Universal had a fucking haunted house built just for them, making money. TKO's all about money, and they fired them. Think about the merchandise that you could have had with the masks. The masks with, Bo Dallas, Eric Rowan, Gacy. The mask sales that TKO could make, and you fire them? Seriously? What the fuck? I get it. They probably should have been booked better. They probably weren't booked the best, but you get rid of, people that could have sold so much merch. That's my thoughts on it.
All right, let's go over to Nick, not Lombardo, just Nick.
Yeah, I mean, fuck. Sucks that these guys lost their jobs. But it is what it is. It's a business at the end of the day, like we said we did a special shenanigans on Friday. It's part of business. Yeah, Creative really did fuck with it. I think Creative in the tag team division where it's not that strong right now, you definitely could have used the Wyatt Six in there. And no, DJ, I do not want this kid in AEW. Go to TNA.
Okay, Herm, you got your hand up. Herm? Okay, Dylan.
Yeah, as far as my thoughts on the releases stuff, and there's a couple guys that I want to talk about when we get to them, because I think it's about TNA, and that's something I want to ask DJ later on. I think it's just a business, honestly. The WWE is trying to save money, and they should protect their investments, and they're building young new stars, and they're calling up people and stuff like that. It's just the way of life, but I don't understand why a lot of fans just don't understand that it happens every year. These talent cuts normally happen, and we don't know there's going to be any more. But I understand why WWE does it. I'm not as upset as I used to be back in the early days, but it's just a business at the end of the day, and people need to understand how these things work.
I don't understand how you still don't have a display picture. No, and you need a display picture, buddy. You still don't have one.
I thought that is his display picture.
I'll get one soon. Don't worry. I'm trying to figure it out.
It's been like 3 years, Dylan. You got to figure it out. Okay, Cordell, do you have your hand up, or is that from before?
Oh, no, I got my hand up. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I just want to say, I'm not trying to sound like an asshole, but you know me, I got to be an asshole. I got to be the one to be the asshole. I don't know why everybody's all of a sudden a big fan of YS6 or anybody that got released when you motherfuckers ain't talked nan word about them the past 6 months. Let's not act like y'all are fans all of a sudden of the YS6 or Tyra Maysteel or Zoe Stark or any of these motherfuckers that got released. So please stop acting like y'all are big fans all of a sudden. To me, honestly, the last spooky, hokey, supernatural gimmick that worked was The Undertaker. Kane too, but he's kind of connected with The Undertaker. WWE wise, if you want to say
I'd say Boogeyman, and I'd go closer and say Boogeyman. To an extent. To an extent.
To an extent, yes. But he was more like a comedy act. I don't really count him as he was more like a comedy.
I just think motherfuckers was frightened to death to get that warm spot. Okay.
I know, but if you want to count non-WWE, Abyss, I think Abyss was like.
I don't think. I
just too. That's a good one.
Would you say that was time out? You would say Abyss was spooky? I don't know if Abyss was considered a spooky. I like
Abyss was initially meant to be spooky, and then Russo got his hands on Abyss and fucked up the character, and the rest was history.
Yeah, but depends on my point. I don't know why everybody's all of a sudden fans of these. They get really. This happens every year. You see these fake Albert. I want such a big word.
So I can answer your question. I think it's less about the wrestlers themselves than what they represent. I think it's more of the ending of Bray Wyatt's legacy. Them being upset about Bray Wyatt's legacy ending the way it did, than them caring about the individuals involved. Because I agree. I don't think individually, no one gives a fuck about Bo Dallas, Loomis, Gacy, Rowan, or Nikki Cross. But what they represented was the last bit of Bray's legacy that we had in wrestling. So, that's why I think more people are upset and speaking out about it, because it's the ending of the legacy.
Can I say something? Okay, I gotta be the asshole in this situation, but can't believe I'm saying this. Don't attack me if you want something. Bray Wyatt's overrated. I always thought he was overrated ever since he was alive.
That's where I might mute your mic on that one.
I'm just saying, because I'm like,
I don't think. I think he's rated. He's not an all-time great. I agree with that. If anyone's naming him as an all-time great, they're wrong. But in terms of what he means to modern wrestling and especially modern WWE business, I would say it's kind of the difference between, you know, the GOAT and the legend conversation in the NBA. You know, there's that upper class tier for like the champions, and then there's the legends like AI, Charles Barkley and shit. You know what I mean? I feel like Bray Wyatt's kind of in that Charles Barkley like conversation. Like, he's definitely in the legend conversation, but in terms of the upper
that legend term gets used way too loosely. In my opinion,
I'm saying in terms of
he was just a character. He was just there. I get people have fans, but he was just there.
Wait, what did you say?
I said I get that he was like a big part of it, but he was just there. He was just another character.
No, he was a top guy for a fair period of time between I want to say 2017, late 2017, 2018 to the end of the pandemic. Bray Wyatt was definitely a top name and a top guy in that company, and was featured prominently, and made them millions and millions of, if not hundreds of millions of dollars, was generated because of the IP.
You did those years, and I wasn't really watching that. That's when I was tapped out of wrestling, so he was a big part.
But if we're having he's not in the conversations of the Romans, the Punks, the Cenas, you know what I mean? But he's in the conversations of the Mysterios, the Batistas. Like, he's definitely in that realm in terms of what he means to specifically WWE business.
I think it's going to sound completely off, but he's more in the conversation of The Undertaker and Kane when it's about the character. No one's going to confuse Bray Wyatt with Ric Flair. But when it comes to the character and the connection the character had with the audience, I think that's where we're getting more of a conversation piece. So,
But at the end of the day, to finish my point, I think spooky, hokey, supernatural characters didn't work in today's age. Like I said, the last one that really worked and was like a long-term success was Undertaker, Kane, yes, and like DJ said, to a certain extent, Boogeyman. But outside of that, I don't know why everybody's a big fan of fucking not Bray Wyatt, excuse me. The Wyatt Six, Tyra May Steele. You can't even name me five of their matches that you watched. So, I mean,
listen, all I know is Tyra May Steele brought this on herself. She had a dream about it 2 weeks ago, and she manifested it. So that's all I got to say about
I'm
that.
just naming off names. Like I said, it could be anybody on the list. Tyra May Steele.
Well, we're gonna move on. Okay, we're gonna move on from.
Let me go down. Let's start breaking down this list real quick, just because I want to at least.
Okay, I'm okay. So let me leave it. I don't know why everybody's a big Wyatt Six fan all of a sudden. When the past 6 months nobody's talked about them, nobody has cared, and now everybody has their. No pun intended the Roman, but everybody has their ones up in the sky.
But you know what?
If I go to your tweets right now, when's the last time you tweeted about the Wyatt Six?
All right, well, I'm not on Twitter. I'm not chronically on.
All right.
Thanks, Preston.
Okay.
Like I said, I'm about to get to this list. We're gonna start off with the big conversation starter. Who do I think from this list Tony Khan's gonna nab up immediately when their 90 days is up? I see 5 names on this list that I can see Tony Khan grabbing up in the instant. First one, and the obvious one, is the Machine Guns. If you don't think they're bouncing to AEW when that 90 days is up, you're out of your fucking mind.
I'll argue with that one. I think there's
you're out of your fucking mind.
No, I think there's a possibility of TNA.
No, they're going to AEW. Tony Khan gave them an offer, a giant offer, before they went to WWE, and they were only there for a year. He definitely, if they still want to go, and WWE's not going to hire them in coach roles as they initially quote unquote were promised, and they still got some in the tank, AEW is definitely going to be their place to go. Money wise, it makes sense. Tag team wise, people they can work with, it makes more sense. AEW needs more upper echelon tag teams, especially ones that are high on work rate. So that I honestly think that's the only obvious one. Like 100%, I can say 99.9% sure that the Machine Guns are going to AEW.
Right, who else you got on the list?
I have Kairi Sane going to AEW.
Fuck
If she-
no.
If she doesn't go to, if she doesn't, hold on. You missed my asterisk before you started bitching, Brandon. You need to hold your fucking tongue, because I got this. If she doesn't go to Stardom first,
I think she has a better chance of going back to Japan because let's be honest. But
Because-
she's on treated better in AEW either. Like Mina Shirakawa, people are calling her Mina Eat Pinner. She really eats
listen, it's not about presentation for Kyrie at this point, because if that was the case, she wouldn't have stayed in WWE the excess amount of time she stayed there with the betrayal they give her. So I think Kairi Sane would be the type of wrestler Tony Khan wants on his roster. It would be a more consistent.
He's
It
got
would be a more consistent version of Riho. I can see this one being someone Kenny fights for.
DJ, on Kyrie, I think there's a 35% chance she gets R-Truth in the next week or so.
I agree with that. Maybe.
Because
All right.
of all the releases, she's the one whose peers have been speaking out the most about, and who's been gaining some sort of traction on social media for, to rehire. So I have a feeling that might end up being a R-Truth situation for Kyrie.
I think it also needs to be said that for a lot of talent, if I'm somebody signed to WWE, the release of Kairi Sane is one that scares the shit out of me, because she's somebody who's consistently on television, was involved in a pretty decent angle. I mean, I would say a major angle. It wasn't the most important angles, but one that was heavily televised, had a lot of story behind it, a lot of lore behind it, a lot of build behind it. And then you're well liked by the fans. The whole storyline's coming down to you eventually breaking out of, being underneath the thumb of, your friend who's abusing you. And she still gets released. What does that say for a lot of people on the roster? It means anybody can get released, in my opinion, within reason.
Okay, well, I understand why the Kyrie one, we'll put a pin on as a maybe. We'll put a question mark next to that one, but that's someone I think Tony would go for. Because, again, if we're talking purely work rate, Kyrie is one of the more work rate heavy people in WWE. Her work wasn't the best, but she focused on that. And I think with AEW and wrestlers being more her size, instead of working with the Nias, the Rheas, the fucking Charlottes and stuff, if she's working with girls more her size, like a Mercedes, a Jamie Hayter, Thekla, you'll be able to see more of Kairi Sane's strength.
But the issue is the AEW women division, they don't get any time. Like right now, it just feels like it's on autopilot.
No, but I think it's because it's due to a lack of talent. Tony spent a year and a half making his two main divisions so top heavy. He used everyone to lose to not only Mercedes, but Tony Storm as well. He didn't build anyone else up for after they left. Now they're both gone for prolonged periods of time, and he has no one in a position to take over. Thekla has taken the ball and run with it. Don't get me wrong. I haven't completely hated her title reign. It's actually been one of the better women title reigns in AEW, if I say so myself. But I think what AEW is lacking right now is bodies for the women. Yeah, at least, actual women stars. So if you bring in a Kairi Sane or maybe a Zoe Stark as well, or Alba Fire too, because you have this LaDawn already on ROH. You know what I mean? You can use them as somewhat star power from their WWE name to help build up some of those people you want to build up in that division.
I do agree with
But it's all about giving them time, and AEW is not really good at giving women that much
It's
time.
not just an AEW problem; it's a wrestling problem.
I mean, I get it.
Brandon, it's not about giving them time. It's about the women's job, about making women's wrestling interesting outside
But
of the
that's
second
also
field.
up to the bookers and the
No,
writing.
it's not. No, it's not, Brandon. Hold on. I got to finish this list, so I need you to hold on for a second, but I will answer that last point real quick. I think it's up to the booker and to a certain extent. If women's wrestling was as interesting as everyone claims it to be, it would be on the top of the card already. They would have no choice but to book this shit and book it more often if it was as interesting as everyone says it is. A lot of people who are sitting here bitching about the women just want them to have equal opportunity, but ain't out here watching women's wrestling matches or talking about the women's wrestling matches or getting these women over to the extent of the men. It's like the same men I see here bitching about the women in the WNBA not being paid equally to the men, when the revenue difference is vastly different. So, like, if we really want women's wrestling to sit here and thrive and get that and have them get more equitable, the equity of television time, we need to sit here and start cheering them as much as we do the guys, or then start getting them over as much as the guys. And then we'll start seeing more girls matches. Then we'll start seeing, women being featured more prominently than, just sitting here and handing them opportunities for them to fail. Let's set them up to succeed first, so when we finally do give them the chance, they can succeed. But let me go to I got two more.
1 second, DJ, before you go. Herm's been waiting a while. I just want to get Herm real quick.
I was going to say, let DJ finish and then I'll jump on.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Herm. So my fourth one I got going that I think is a definite is Santos Escobar. I think in terms of all the Hispanic presence they have and the way they've been trying to encapsulate the CMLL relationship, I can see Santos Escobar doing a dual contract, signing to both so he could be on AEW television and on the big shows for CMLL. I think Santos Escobar needs to rehash his and kind of do the Matt Cardona thing. Rehash your image on like the indies or a lesser promotion. Get a new gimmick, get your name up, because he's got some of the tools. He just hasn't had the opportunity.
I have a theory about Santos, why he got released.
Because he was drunk during his last.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that, he literally, everyone thought and assumed something was wrong, and it wasn't just that he was working with a torn tricep, bicep, whatever the injury is. I think that's the reason why he got the boot, especially after how hard they tried to keep him after he was gone for a day and then he stayed. I definitely think that was a reason behind it. But who's your last name?
And my last one, and then this is only because I don't think they have their quote unquote last member yet. I think they're going for Apollo Crews for the Hurt Syndicate. That would be the perfect last fit, and it'd be the young guy to help get over. And Bobby Lashley could have the chance to do for Apollo Crews in AEW what Brock just did for Obafemi. If they do the story right, if they play the long game, if
he's not young though. He's not young though. I'm just saying.
He's young. He's younger than Lashley, and he's kind of like a younger version of Lashley. It's not like an Apollo doesn't have that many miles on his body. You know what I mean? It's not like he's been torn apart with injuries. He's still in great fucking shape. He can still do some things. And in terms of, I think he'd fit AEW more than a Bobby Lashley, at least to the style of work and how they present him. And if they do it right, this one is purely just speculation and just me. But if they do it right, Apollo Crews can be the third guy, their third man.
He's the third man, brother.
And I think it'd work out for the Hurt Syndicate. But honorable mention too, also Rowan, just because he has ties to AEW already as well.
Herm, let's get to you real quick.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with the machine guns. I agree with that one. I think the deal with Kyrie, though, I think that's more like a Drake Maverick situation where they were in a storyline then their contract expired. So I don't think Kyrie's necessarily completely done at WWE. I'm going to throw out a name there, and before anyone opens their mouth and says something, I have every reason to back this up. Joe Gacy, I really do believe will end up at AEW just for the simple fact that he has experience working with other guys in the company, and they've kind of like tossed it out there, especially Swerve and MJF. You know, when the 90 days are up, come here. I think that's going to be probably the biggest one. As far as Loomis goes, that's probably TNA since he was already there with Sam Shaw. Rest of the Wyatts, I think, are just going to go to be, you know, public people. I don't even think they're going to have an interest in wrestling any longer.
I think Nikki's going to go to MLW because Big Dane or whatever his name is now is over there. That's her husband.
Yeah, but she's also going for a PhD too.
She already got it.
Oh, she did?
Yeah.
I did not know that. Well, son of a
That's Nikki Cross. I didn't know that either. Holy shit.
Yeah.
well, congratulations to Nikki Cross.
I as far as the list, I feel bad for Alistair and Zelina. I don't know where they're going to land. I think TNA might be the only real option.
I would say an MLW get them involved with Cross and Scarlet.
No, I'd say TNA's the best route, especially if they still want to do the spooky shit and stick together. TNA's the best place for them to go. I think them going to MLW would kind of take away from what Cross is doing. I think TNA could be the route.
Not if it puts Cross over it.
Like I said, I think Kyrie's going to end up staying. I think we're going to get an R-Truth situation. Santos, I can kind of agree with, you know, but, you know.
Who do you think on the list is going to go to AEW?
Go to AEW?
Yeah, let's just try to keep that to the main topic of the conversation.
Okay.
Who do you think is going to AEW?
I can agree with Gacy. That kind of just fits. Like I said, I'm not totally, you know, against the Machine Guns going, but I just think there is a possibility because of their ties and long history with TNA. But I do agree, you're probably right. Tony doesn't feel a certain way because he turned them down and he's willing to offer them the contract again. Then, yeah, I could see that. Alba Fire, I think, is definite, but I think it's more for ROH than necessarily AEW because what's her face is over there already.
Well, if you can team them back up, they might be good for the tag team division.
Right. Zoe Stark, to me, is a 50-50. It could be AEW, but it could also be TNA. I think Zoe might be one of the people who's the mindset of she wants to be back in WWE no matter what. And I think going to TNA is more of a like, at least, you know, you're pretty close to slide back in and you kind of still have one foot in the door. As far as the developmental people that got released, see any of them going. So I think that's pretty much it.
Hey, you know, I want to bring something else up too. As far as like the talent that got released, two names stood out on that, and I said to myself, well, if they apply themselves and kind of like Drew McIntyre themselves, like, you know, reinvent themselves and, you know, get themselves over on the indies, I could see them coming back, and that would be Malik Blade and Sabino because they're very young, and if they could find something that's not going on in WWE, but if they find it out there might be an interest.
Okay, let me get to Nick. What's up, Nick?
I want none of these people. No, I'm kidding. I'll take a couple of them, but other than that, no, I wouldn't take the Wyatts.
Which couple would you take? That's kind of the key part of the subject.
Probably take. I take Alba. I take Kylie Ray. I feel like she'd be a good addition. The Machine Guns are, I think, as soon as after that, Dynamite is in Detroit. So, that motherfucker, those guys are, if they don't already have the contract sent to them, they will be getting it soon. Machine Guns, Kylie Ray. Honestly, I don't want anybody else. Like I'd probably take some of the developmental guys. You know what? I take the Olympic gold medalist, that chick. I take her too.
You wouldn't see Apollo Crews working with the Hurt Syndicate.
Fuck no, he's old. He's not. He's you need somebody younger.
No, you don't.
Yeah.
No, you don't. Why are we in this thing where we think we have to put over these 20-year-old wrestlers?
I'd rather put a guy like Malik Blade. I'd rather put a guy like Malik Blade in that spot.
Because there's rarely any wrestlers now at least in the modern age, who established themselves before 30. It's really rare. So it's like to sit here and say Apollo Crews is too old. This motherfucker was a prodigy 6 years ago.
It's not that he's too old. It's just we have guys like that already.
Like what? You don't have guys like Apollo Crews just standing around.
Take these young cats.
Ooh,
take a Malik Blade.
Every night.
We don't need to be putting guys who are on developmental onto AEW television. Again, like in terms of a veteran with experience who knows what he's doing and you can get a good match out of, again, who is better than Apollo Crews that's out there and actually fits the Hurt Syndicate? Name anyone in AEW.
Right now?
Yes, anyone in AEW who could fill in that third man spot, right? Apollo Crews.
Kevin Knight. Kevin Knight.
I wouldn't, and again, I think y'all are throwing Kevin Knight to the wolves, giving him that expectation. Because Kevin Knight has that star potential right now. Not within the next 2 years. Kevin Knight is a 5-year project. At best. Right.
Yeah,
the thought that Kevin Knight within the next 2 years is going to be some top star or AEW World Champion or WWE World Champion or an NXT World Champion or any type of World Champion whatsoever is completely out the blue and out the way. We barely hear this guy fucking talk.
But this is why I'm saying you're better off getting a young guy and having
No, because then again, you're setting them up for failure, Nick. If you're going to elevate someone, why not elevate someone who's ready to that next level? Instead of just elevating the guy to be ready to take that next level way before he's even nearly finally tuned whatsoever, and then just setting him up to fail. That's what happened with Wheeler and Daniel Garcia. That's exactly how it worked.
Yeah.
So we can't, that's not how we're going to build up young guys. That's not how that works. If you want to do that with Kevin Knight in 2 to 3 years and give him, if the Hurt Syndicate 2 or 3 years later, I'd be more than fine with it. But we're trying to get someone over right now at the Corbin as the third guy. It's just because we can use that to build up to eventually turning him as a babyface and using Bobby Lashley doing a job that means something. And that's one of the big misconceptions we have out here with the Syndicate is that they don't want to do jobs. They just don't want to do jobs that don't mean anything to the bigger picture. If Bobby Lashley loses a match, you know what I mean? If Bobby Lashley loses a match, it should mean something. If someone's beating one of the most chiseled veterans in Shelton Benjamin, it should mean something. It shouldn't be just on a random Dynamite or you're losing on a random Collision. No, when they get pinned, it should mean something.
Yeah.
Well, it's not about this. At least you're not shitting.
Taking people like I'm not taking the Wyatt family. But than that, like I said, I take everybody else. Listen, we don't have enough fucking before we say,
It was I don't have a thing for Gacy, so I'm not the person to sit here and advocate for this motherfucker.
No, see,
I think Loomis, because of his size and his workability, can work as kind of like a male Camille. It just depends on the person you. Honestly, I think the best way to use Loomis right now is to have JF in the role. Use him as the big guy that does tough shit around.
exactly.
We're gonna get him over. But, give it. I just want to try to get some more in for a second. Dylan, go ahead.
Oh, I don't think everybody should go to AEW because, number one, Tony Khan has a bloated roster of maybe Kyrie saying. I think he's got to start with probably fit over there. Like, TJ, if I'm TNA right now, I would honestly, like, I'm not even say this right now. I think TNA needs to make a couple to maybe some of these people like all Cruz. For their sake, it's important for them to load the roster. Because, at some point, like they have a small roster and they're on KFC every Thursday night. I think if they get a couple of those guys, I think it's secures them for the main event for a little while because at some point, I don't know when this is going to happen, but I'm not saying they're leaving. Leon Slater on WWE's radar. Now, I think it's a for sure gone conclusion that Leon Slater is going to leave TNA for different NXT. And it's kind of like, I don't know. I don't know if he'll leave or not, but I think he might. And with those big names in TNA picked up in NXT, I don't know. With the futures of, I think it's important to DJ for them to look at guys like Joe Gacy and like Apollo Crews. And for them, if they can get them signed, sealed, delivered, and put them on no relief, I look at guys like freaking Mustafa Ali as absolutely killing it right now in TNA. And they got the crews kind of like revamped. Like, if I'm TNA right now, and for a fact that you're going to lose Mike Santana and Leon Slater for NXT line, I would really look at guys like Joe Gacy and some of those other guys to fill their kind of be like.
I don't want anybody until you get a.
I'm trying to think because I had to. I did. Could you be? In terms of TNA stuff, I definitely Wyatt 6. That's the best. Because they just kind of broke up their main faction in terms of what's the fucking group name? I forgot now. Moose's group, former group. Thank you. I don't know why I was getting the defensive in my head.
After thinking about me just a minute, you were thinking about me, and I'm so handsome and so like.
Oh my God!
Jesus Christ! Talk about putting yourself over.
Apparently, but in terms of TNA, I think they can farm some of these names, especially I think Zoe Stark fits best in TNA right now with how I think the women's division in terms of the knockouts need some names, and you could form a couple more tag teams too if you bring a couple of those girls in. So, yeah, I kind of agree with you on that one. Jet, go ahead. Who do you think's going to AEW?
So what do I think? I just think honestly that today is a good day to talk about trees and the birds and talk about how
I'm gonna mute you.
life is life right now and how everything has come together in my life and how that we shouldn't be worried about AEW, WWE, TNA, WWE. We should be talking about our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ.
Okay, I muted him
You
because
muted me when talking about
yeah,
God,
yeah,
atheists.
no,
You
because
love-
you're taking my
Now I gotta read it because everybody's talking. I think he muted you because you were going on too long and hearing yourself talk too much. I think Brandon wanted to expedite you getting to the fucking point.
Yeah, remember last week when you jumped in and told everyone to shut up because I wanted to end the space? I had to shut you up because I wanted to end your diatribe that had nothing to do with what we're conversating about.
You're safe now.
Okay. Muted me while I was talking about Jesus. Y'all are going to hell. Anyways, who do I think I'm going? I can't speak. Who do I think is going to go to AEW? Like you said, Mercy Machine Guns. I can see them going. That's about it. I don't see the Wyatt is going. I don't see Alice going. Selena, Kyrie, if he goes, I can see her going. Those are the only like 3 names I see going. I mean, everybody else here. Stuff like that, so they can go to TNA and still kind of work with WWE. So that's about it. And DJ, you're such a big fan of Apollo Crews. All of a sudden, I got a question for you. Give me your top 5 Apollo Crews matches.
I gotta think of them. Apollo Crews versus The Miz. That's about it.
Exactly. You're such a big fan, you can't even think of
No,
one.
did I say I was a fan? I was saying how.
Wait.
You're putting him over more than I'm putting myself over. And Jesus Christ, I'm putting myself
I
over.
heard the fucking face slurping the shit out of me and Brandon.
First off, timeout. No one puts themselves over the way Jet puts himself over. So DJ's not even close to that stratosphere of how much of a mark for yourself you are. Second off, you were just like you do with Zeus. Let's
I love y'all, man. I can't say I love another man. Is that gay?
actually.
I love y'all.
Anyway, I don't think
trans man.
I gotta come to DJ's defense. Just because he says that he could see someone fitting in somewhere doesn't mean he's saying he's a huge fan. Like in the previous conversation, DJ, and to an extent I do try to be objective about certain things. So just because you are speaking on somebody doesn't mean that you're a fan and we have to give you 5 matches that we enjoyed of them. But I will say for Apollo, thanks to his Nigerian Prince gimmick, he gave us Trick Williams.
Whoop that trick. So so that's the only thing I see. Anything else I want to say? You're listening to this, follow me. I got some amazing things on the way. And love this show. Thank you. Have a good day.
Well, I want to ask Nick. Nick, you don't want to see the Wyatt 6 against the Dark Order? Isn't that like the dream faction feud that AEW has been waiting on?
Is the Dark Order even still AEW? It's like one number left.
No, the only one who left was Stu Grayson. All the others are still there.
No, President Vance ain't in the Dark Order either.
No, he's not in the Dark Order. No, I don't want to see any of them in the Dark Order. I'm good.
All right. Well, next question is, let's go to the TNA. Who fits best for TNA? Obviously, Alistair and Selena. The Wyatt 6, Zoe Stark. I Alba Fire going there if she doesn't go to Ring of Honor. Well, Nick, let me ask you a question real quick. Do you think, in terms of Ring of Honor, do you think any of these names would be okay for there?
Probably the younger talent. But again, like, I don't. What do we need them for? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I don't know.
What about you, Lamar? Who do you think on this list so far? TNA bound. You there? For some reason it's not coming through. Is Elon being a bitch for you right now?
Yeah, he was for a while for me.
You could hear him.
I see his speaker going in and out, but I don't hear him.
Let's try this again. I'm gonna bring him back up, see if this works.
Does TNA have any money?
No shit, they got money. Or they wouldn't be in business, though, fuck.
I think they have a little bit of money. No, I wouldn't say that. I think I wouldn't say launder, but they really don't do. You now loud and clear. Perfect. Okay, now are we talking about TNA or AEW right now?
Hit some ass.
You can do either or, because I don't think you said anything on AEW either. No, I mean, I think that anyone going to AEW, it maybe is the Machine Guns, unless they really do feel like they want to transition to that more coach role, and maybe this is just kind of a way for them to get. Maybe it's just like this restructuring kind of thing where like they're going to go to TNA, they're going to do a little stint there in TNA for a little while, then they'll come back to WWE and they'll kind of settle into those kind of a career. But maybe maybe they feel like they still have a lot more to give. As far as other folks, I think Zoe Stark is somebody who should really consider going to TNA because of the connection to WWE. I think she's somebody who really had a case of really bad luck by when she got injured. She was doing a really good program with Becky and Trish Stratus and everything, and it seemed like a lot of stuff was going right for her. Has one of the most beautiful missile drop kicks off of a top rope you'll ever see. Ironically, that's what ended up getting her hurt. She'd be really, really good in TNA. Just provide a little bit more depth for that roster. All right. Cool. Is there anyone else that I need to go to on this topic? Because
No.
we still got a little bit more we could talk about.
I want to bring up the fact that people are giving Triple H too much of an escape clause about these and not blaming Triple H enough. Now, yes, TKO decides that there's a salary cap, that they decide that, we have to lower the budget for the talent. But let's not pretend like Ari Emanuel is sitting there and saying, you got to get rid of Zoe Stark and Dante Chen. You really think if Zoe Stark or Dante Chen walked past Ari Emanuel, he would have any other clue who they are?
No.
To me, it just seems that only so much leeway you can give Triple H. His hands are dirty. He's the one who gets the on. Sit down and decide who's getting. So let's not, this is a game because it's not. And let's also not use the fact that we've had CEOs of companies getting their bonuses or whatever they are, and then claiming, well, they're getting this much money, so why are we cutting talent? You don't get that when, in regular sports, when, they have to adhere to a salary cap. You don't say, well, Jerry Jones got paid this much last year, so why are they not adhering to the salary cap? It's a stupid conversation in my eyes. It's just, and I don't think we should let Triple H just get away with not knowing that his hands are dirty, because he's the one who decided that Kairi Sane in the middle of a storyline is suddenly, getting cut out. You could argue that pretty much everyone else was kind of like not in the middle of something. I mean, the Wyatt Six, they just finished up with the MFTs, but I just think that Triple H is given too much rope to get away with stuff when it comes to these releases.
I mean, It depends on how accountable you want to hold him. I mean, yes, he decides on who had to go, but it's also, again, these releases, we can't sit here and act like these releases weren't justified. These were pretty much people who weren't being used outside maybe Kyrie and Zelina and Alistair. And Zelina and Alistair were being used for jobs. So let's be honest, they're not going to pay fucking X amount of money to have, pay them as jobbers.
Why don't we? Didn't Alistair's last match he beat Randy Orton?
Swore he had a match after that he just lost.
He beat Sammy.
He beat Randy. And
He
Randy,
beat Sammy. That's what it was.
And
That's what his last match was.
and he was supposed to be in this thing, right? With
He was supposed to be where Pat is. Ended up being anyway.
Allegedly.
But it also came on to he wasn't working. It's kind of the Rusev. I'm shocked Rusev wasn't one of the releases, but they're trying to get some use out of him, I guess.
I don't get Alistair because Triple H is such a big fan of his.
That's why he came back in the first place. But
It's why he brought him back in the first place. It's why he kept his old theme song, his presentation, putting him with his wife. I mean, everything. He came back and he went over on Damian Priest, who was a former world champion. I mean, I don't get it at all. Like it's very odd to me. It's a really, really odd choice for him to do that. And to tie it back to what Brandon said, I mean, yes, I hear you, Brandon. Like, there's no way that the top executives at TKO have any idea who basically 90% of these wrestlers on the roster are. They know who Roman Reigns is. They know who Cody Rhodes is. They know who CM Punk is because those are the people that make them the most money. But otherwise, they don't know anybody who's an NXT talent or an NFL talent, mind you, who got released just now. But there were some decisions made here that are very head scratching, and I think that's why people are kind of weary as to like, well, who's really to blame here for these releases? Plus, Zelina Vega herself on her Twitch stream said, "I got a call from TKO." She didn't say I got a call from WB Talent Relations. She said I got a call from TKO, and they told me themselves. So I think that's also adding to the dialogue too.
Speaking of Zelina, what did you feel about what she said about Sean, DJ?
I mean, first of all, I want to state to the obvious point and on the record, because I hope he hears this shit later so he knows I'm saying this shit publicly. I want to apologize to John because I never thought he would say a nice thing ever about Sean because of how much he dislikes this motherfucker. But he took the objective point of view and said the truth. And you know what? I admit I will eat the crow and admit that I'm wrong and publicly apologize to you, John. So when you do eventually hear this, just know it is publicly on record. Because I don't think Sean was wrong for reporting it. He was doing his quote-unquote job. And if this was more personal, like, her getting divorced or someone in her family dying or her needing a certain type of surgery or some sort. Yes, Sean, you sit on that and you hit her up first to confirm the story before you put it out there. Don't confirm it with X, Y, Z sources and say, okay, well, I confirmed it enough. No, if you have credibility and you're a person of no value of any sort, you go straight to the person who the story is about and try to get their side of the story as well. But in this case, he heard it from her employer first. It was more of a company decision. He was just reporting the company's decision. It's not his fault. It's TKO's fault. And I feel like her anger was more towards, she was more mad at TKO than she was Sean. Sean just caught the ire of it.
Like I said I think it was yesterday on your space, she basically was projecting her feelings about losing her job onto Sean. Let's not pretend like if she's the only one cut, I could hear her argument that he could have sat on it and let her announce it herself. But she was among 23 other talents. And
like I said, it in certain situations, reporters should not shit on shit, but sit on shit if it's personal and always reach out to the source before they put out the story. But if they're like in terms of firings and releases, and everyone knew the releases were coming, we just didn't know who yet. And Sean heard it first from the company side instead of, talent side. So he got confirmation on it. You know what I mean? He did confirm it from talent side first before he even ran.
Even I have to come to Sean's defense, and I'm not the biggest Sap fan for why.
Like I said, John came to his defense, and that's something I never thought I'd see John do ever. And I told him verbatim that I never thought I'd do this shit, and he did it. So I had to make the apology more public than the disrespect. Fuck that. I'm sorry, John.
Yeah, but fair is fair. You got to be fair when you say things too. You could dislike someone, but if something's going on and they're not guilty, I don't want to say guilty in quotes. You got to be honest about it too.
Lombardi, you had something to add before I try to switch up the topic real quick?
Yeah, I think I was just gonna say two things can be true at the same time. I think it could really suck for Zelina because it's a really shitty situation when you put so much time and effort and it's your livelihood to be first time. Someone's done a report about it. At the same time, Sean has a job to do. He's hearing it from the company, which means in his mind, people have already been notified, and he's not doing it first. So I just think it's just one of those cases where, like Brandon said, I think there was some projection of anger and frustration, which is rightfully so. She's allowed to do that. Of course, it's within her right, but I don't blame Sean for doing his job.
All right. Well, real quick, while I got both Nicks here, I want to ask Nick, follow up to last week's Dynamite happened. And boy, it was a follow up. We got apparently the Death Riders going back babyface, but kind of undid all that work last night on Collision. So we don't know what the fuck's going on with this. We thought Ospreay was going to be feuding with the Callis family, but apparently the Callis and Death Riders story will never fucking end. Tommaso and Darby did have a good match. Wasn't the best match ever, like everyone's touting it to be. Wasn't the best match during WrestleMania week, but it was a good solid match for AEW.
5 stars, according to Uncle Davey.
Yeah, that's a whole different conversation though. But how did you feel about this right after? Because for my taste and liking, I hated it. I thought it was a terrible follow-up to last week. If anything, this week made last week seem more convoluted.
So wait, what are you asking me how I felt about this Dynamite?
Yeah.
I thought it was a favorite show. I thought I'm glad that people can say what they want. You can't deny that AEW are telling stories. You just got to give them a second to let them tell it. They're doing that, right? And I think that's something that we've always asked them to just do. Don't worry about anything else. They're putting it. The work is there and it shows. Now, whether it's good or bad, it's up for the people's interpretation, right? You didn't like it. I thought the show was fine. I thought the show was good. It flowed. I mean, things happened where it was like, okay. And then seeing Collision this week, they're following up on stories, which is good. Overall, I thought it was a good show. They got to keep they to keep that momentum because Double or Nothing is not far away, and they need to put, hopefully, they've got what 11K in the building without them even announcing one match. So hopefully they come out swinging. Week television, and so far it's not egregious. How about that? It's not like it's being offensive. Like
There's 2 matches actually official so far.
yeah, which is nice. And then we're getting the I Quit match. So far I'm all right. I'm enjoying it.
All right, Lombardi, and then I'm gonna go to Dylan.
I'll be very quick. I mean, I don't watch Dynamite weekly. I see clips. What I'll say is Darby, but is for AEW nuts because you're going to build the story of that Darby is this deserving, scrappy heart and soul, within AEW, and he's a fighting champion. Then you got to have him go up there and have really great matches what's on TV and carry that and not feel like just a traditional person holding the title waiting for MJF to take it back Double or Nothing, which I still think if they do is so incredibly stupid because that means it only confirms the fact that the whole reason of giving the time talking about it. I mean, I will still stand on the hill of no one has been in any way elevated because of it. Wheeler Yuta has not been elevated. Claudio hasn't. I don't think anybody says I'm waiting for that whole thing just to implode already because it's just getting so tiresome. Every time I see it on TV or on a social media post, I just scroll past it or I click the channel because I have no interest in anything they do. But that's just me.
You're not the only one.
All right, Dylan, on you.
Yeah, honestly, I don't know how I feel about Darby being champion in general. I don't know, man. I think it was the wrong decision by taking the title off. I think it was the wrong decision. Like I don't know why me thinks it's the right decision. I think it's the wrong decision. Don't you think, DJ?
I mean, I'm gonna give it another week before I completely shit on it, but so far, yeah. Like I want to give it a little more time to play out, but basically, and that's what another thing I forgot to bring up. MJF got a demotion. Now and I don't see the point of Kevin Knight losing to MJF right now. MJF winning that belt, so like, and it makes the Darby thing. It definitely seemed or something. It definitely should be. Last week was definitely a smart plan in your eyes, and I don't think it played the way one did.
Why? Like they don't do it all the time. The buzz talking, right? It's not anybody. Like we all know that we'll get excited back. And again, they're playing it as a story, right?
Nick, I think I'm not faulting them for that, but I did the time with was even worse.
Yeah.
Like I'm all for during WrestleMania where that your generate is going to be immediately taken away within days. And in terms of Darby, it's a case of too late. The time and place to put that belt on Darby was all in Texas last year when Moxley was champion, when it was the rate of terror was at its height, but he decided to go climb a fucking mountain. I'm sorry. Just because we shouldn't be doing shit just because we feel obligated to someone because we promised them to do something, but they'd rather do something else. Like, we should not be reporting the fact that Darby chose himself over AEW, Mr. I love AEW. So, and everything was set up for Ospreay and MJF. And now it's just making the path to Ospreay way harder. Because I brought up this point. Hold on. And doing it this